I'm a little slow on the controls tonight, but that is Running Wild in the 21st Century. That is Helix. They're a band originally from Kitchener, Ontario, or the Kitchener, Ontario area. Brian Vollmer currently lives halftime between London, Ontario, and Fort Myers, Florida. And the band is playing a ton of shows this summer all across Canada, down into the US as well. And that song was released in 1989. So hard to believe. That video is a restored video. There's some restored audio on there as well. The audio track actually came out. It came out a week ago, almost a week ago. It came out on July the 3rd. There's a whole bunch more stuff coming out this month on Indie Tunes Records. And we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight as well. We've got a tune called A Good Day by our friends at the Rose City Rockers from Windsor, Ontario. That is out on this Friday. So you're going to want to go pick up that one. It's wherever music is sold, streamed, or downloaded, and you can find it everywhere. So check it out, and all the great Helix tracks that are coming out. Currently, we're releasing the album in its entirety, which is Back for Another Taste, which was recorded in 1989. Many of those tracks have been remastered, and they sound absolutely awesome, mostly for EQing, stereo separation, things that didn't exist really, really well in the recording world in 1989, and some things you can do now to enhance those tracks to make them sound just a little bit shinier than they were back in those days. Speaking of shiny and brand new, we're going to talk tonight about publishing. Now, many people don't really understand the world of publishing, especially musicians. And me being one, I didn't know a lot about it either way back in the day when I first started doing this. But it's something you learn as time goes on. And it's not as simple as just putting your music out there and hoping people are going to find it. Because you have to, these days, with the internet and and everyone's attention spans. We're going to talk about this because, Mike is a musician. He understands this stuff all too well as a musician and as an artist. And so we're going to bring him on here. Mike Muscat from Windsor, Ontario. Michael is a consummate bassist, guitarist, and singer-songwriter, as well as with Dave Fogarty and the Commotion. And here he is. Without further ado, Mike, how you doing, buddy?
How's it going?
Always great to have you here, man.
Oh, man. Glad to be back again. We had a little time off for Canada Day, which was really nice. And good to be back.
Yeah, I forgot about Canada Day falling on a Wednesday. It was weird. It's weird. You usually think of holidays falling on a weekend as a holiday weekend. Hello.
Where is he?
It just didn't happen. I know. I'm talking to you from the. I'm just removing a source here, and then I'm going to add me and you. There we go. All right, we're going to flip.
Just having a little fun there.
Yeah, I'm going to flip you around here. There we go. So we're you've got a lot of stuff going on musically, and you and I have talked behind the scenes about a lot of stuff. We try to help people that are trying to get their music out there and get their music published for all the world to see.
Yep.
And it is not an easy task. It's not as simple. Well, it can be just as simple if you're really, are just going to throw caution to the wind and just throw your tracks out there, hoping you're like Velcro, they're going to stick to the wall.
Yep.
Then just by all means, just release your music. But if you're really looking to make an impact, you and I have talked about this. I think there's a logical process to follow when you're doing that.
Yeah, there's a system, and the system's there for a reason. I mean, think about it. How many millions of songs are being released every year? I mean, talk about casting a stone, and hoping somebody finds that. It's very challenging, and promotion is just so important to the music. Releasing it is just the beginning, and it's all about getting that music, not just it's discovery, right? You want to have your audience there, waiting, anticipating for the song to come out. There, that's why the teasers are there. That's why we have a strategy when you're building these things, and it's so important to have them. Now, there's philosophies to strategy. It can go either way. Like you said, somebody can just say, "Hey, wait, I'm just going to release it, hope for the best." Done that before. I've done it, and I'm deflated when I go, "My goodness, nobody's seen it yet." And we need to, sometimes you just gotta like work on the system that works, right? You don't reinvent the wheel in these cases.
Yeah, and backtrack a few months. So now, when we backtracked a few months ago, the interesting thing was that you go back 6 months or so, Spotify and all streaming service was where they would have upwards of 75,000 tracks published daily.
Mhm.
Daily. Uh, you know, who can listen to 75,000 tracks published daily?
That's right.
It,
Impossible.
it's a minutia. And now I just went on and I didn't go and ask AI this question. I actually just went into a straight Google search on this.
Oh, primitive.
And I said, "Hi, I went primitive on this. How many tracks were released on Spotify today?" What do you think, Mike? Give me a number.
Wow. You were saying 75,000 before, so nowadays, I don't know, maybe 110,000.
You're close. 120,000 new tracks were uploaded, according to Music Business World, to music streaming services like Spotify each day.
Wow.
And does AI have an impact on this?
I think it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you can take one of these devices. Look at those two guys on there.
Look at
that. You can take one of these devices and you can use GarageBand on an iPhone, or you can use mixing services on an Android phone, and you can create a song literally on a phone.
Yeah, within a day.
And because there are no specific rules about publishing those songs, you can publish music off your phone to a streaming service.
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons. I mean, somebody's sitting there and they're kind of bored and they're going to use AI, or they're going to use Suno or one of those companies. They can sit there on their phone and generate a song in a matter of minutes and then upload it using, a DistroKid or CD Baby or Ditto or one of those, TuneCore.
Yeah.
One of those services for uploading to digital streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not surprising with 120,000 tracks. Now, as a record label, for me, it's really important when we're working with artists to think about, okay, how are we going to develop a strategy?
Right.
How are we going to develop a strategy that is, oh, there's Elizabeth Miller. She's online tonight. Okay.
Let's pop them up there.
She is a purist when it comes to music. So I'm going to post this up here, and I'm sure, there might be some different things. How does boasting about the fact that the music is real and the vocals are authentic without being heavily pitch corrected or auto-tuned play into the artist should be promoting themselves and setting themselves apart from the majority? Can you read the rest of that? Because I can't read it on my.
Yeah, so we're at the majority of artists out there today, most of whom sound the same because their vocals are calibrated to 444 hertz, or they aren't human at all? ?
Yeah, and so there's a point there. I mean, there are people who use auto-tune. They use autocorrect on certain things. The argument for that has always been, and I don't want to go down too far down that rabbit hole, because that's not really sort of the purpose of the show tonight. But this has been a problem since digital audio workstations came into being.
Right.
And even if you go back to the days of splicing tape, right, and cutting tape using razor blades and doing fade ins and fade outs, right?
In there.
Punch ins and punch outs,
Yep.
right? You were not capturing, everything from the beginning days of audio recording when people were using digital, like when they were using tape, 2-inch tape.
Yep.
There were tricks of the trade even back then to autocorrect a voice.
Mix tricks. We used to do mix tricks all the time. I did it in CBC in Toronto in the studios. We were recording our album back then with the old band I had in the 90s. And, doing takes, multiple takes. You're in the, isolation booth, making corrections, playing, dropping and cutting just one bending note, just to get it in there. I mean, it's all mix tricks.
Yeah, and I mean, and even go back to the days of Creedence Clearwater Revival and John Fogerty talking about how he'd go back in the studio and overdub everybody's parts because the guys did not play their parts correctly on the album, and you would not have enjoyed the quality music you enjoyed on those CCR albums had it not been for John Fogerty.
100%.
You would have heard something that you might not have wanted to listen to.
That's right.
Right. And so those autocorrect things have been there since day one. Yes, they're tools. They're tools to be used to reflect what the belief is, what the artist actually does sound like. Because you're really looking for the best representation of the artist when you're doing a recording.
That's right. And this isn't just relegated to music. When they make movies, they go onto the cutting room floor and they start cutting, taping, pasting. They retrack voices, they retrack sounds. It's part of mixing because you only got one shot to capture that audience.
I think the point there that Elizabeth was trying to make is that what you don't want to really do. Well, yeah, it is digital. It is digital pitch correction. Sorry, you're wrong about that. It's actually digital pitch. You're going to argue with us about that, but I'm going to tell you it is digital pitch correction. I will bring audio engineers on here that will tell you that they could do pitch correction. They used to grab the tape and slow it down.
Yep.
Right? They would grab the tape, they would slow it down, they would stretch the tape, they would do all kinds of little tricks in the tape to change the artist's voice. Right. And just to get it the way that they wanted it to sound. And this is why you had sound engineers. This is why you had 2 or 3 mixing engineers looking at what was being recorded in the studio. So overdubbing and all those other things are taking away from what you would claim to be the most natural thing. What I'm saying is, this is the same argument that Eddie Trunk was trying to make about, artists using backing tracks for their shows. Right?
Yep.
And you've got artists like Rush that have been using backing tracks forever for doing shows. And without those backing tracks, they wouldn't be able to give you that awesome wall of sound that they give you when you come to a show. But you're really, really hearing the talents of the 3 guys up on stage.
That's right.
And I don't want to take away from the talent that those musicians have. However, if you take a no talent person and you completely autocorrect everything that they do, then yeah, you're completely misrepresenting the stuff. If there's a one flat note and the engineer wants to correct that one flat note, they're going to do that. It is digital pitch correction. I'm telling you, they use digital machines to correct this stuff. They've been around for ages in studios. It still existed way back in analog times.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were still natural voices, but those natural voices were auto-corrected. If there was a flat note or a sharp note, they would slow the tape down or speed the tape up to get that particular note they wanted. They would cut and splice that piece in the tape and auto-correct it. So it was an auto-correction done. Yeah, maybe not a digital correction done but again, remember all these audio tapes were eventually converted to digital.
Mm-hmm. And if you think that all these major artists out there, even from the 90s, 2000s and up and forward, didn't use auto-tune or correction, we're very, very wrong, because they do use them. They're tools of the trade. Some don't use it as much. There are very talented voices out there that can repeat songs over and over again, and they're talented enough to get that in there. You know, and but there's always time for a correction. It could be even me playing a bass note that's not quite in, it's a little flat, and we tune it up just a little bit just to clean it up. It doesn't mean that the person doesn't have the talent. It's just, like I said, you got one shot when you're recording a song and throwing it out there for an audience to capture it.
And
So-
and again, some of these tools are used because there's been 4 takes done on that particular section of the song,
Yeah.
and you're still working with the best take that you have, and there's something that still needs to be corrected within that particular take. And this all these things come as a result, not just because someone wants to use auto tune,
That's right.
but
Time
because
is money. Right.
because time is money in a studio. Time is money in when you're sending your songs to be mixed, when you're sending them to be mastered. That's all money involved in that. So it's the audio engineer says, I'm going to auto correct that, or I'm going to auto pitch correct that, because we did take after take after take, and we could not do that. Right. And so, everybody has a different take on this stuff. What I think was, if it's, if that's all you're doing is constantly auto correcting and using pitch correction for, singing a show live, because you can't sing on pitch, then there's a problem. Then maybe you shouldn't be doing that.
Correct.
But again, I didn't want to go too far down that rabbit hole.
Yep.
What I want to do, though, is that when you release music, the idea of releasing music is it's the best representation of the artists and what they could expect if they were going to go see you live.
Precisely.
And so don't make it too good, because you've already set the bar high for your live show. If you set that bar so high for that live show, and you can't reach that bar in the live show, you are going to set your fans up for some level of disappointment.
Absolutely.
So I mean, you do want to have, I believe, you do want to have some imperfection in there, so that when someone sees the live show, you're infinitely better than what you were on the recording.
Right.
Unless you're just strictly a recording artist, you don't play live shows, then it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Right. But if you really, really want to encourage people to come out your live shows, you better bring on your A game for those live shows.
100%.
And getting back to this whole business of releasing and release strategy, the thing is, when people release music, it's, there's this attitude that, everybody's going to find my music and it's going to go viral because my music is absolutely wonderful, and I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Says you. Right? But you're not the ears that are going to be listening to it. You're not going to be the ears that are deciding on it. And basically, 120,000 tracks being released a day.
That's right.
What are you going to do to stand out?
Right. And let's not forget, okay, even the greatest songs out there, they need marketing. Okay. Always, branding and storytelling, that's all very important, man. Consistency. That's bigger than the big release, right? That consistency of promotion, creating that brand, creating that name. You want to build a name for yourself. You want to be a household name. And you do that by constantly marketing your songs, your material.
Well, and I had a conversation with an artist this week about, releasing music, and they're like, well, how can we get people to follow us and all that if we don't release any music?
It's a good question.
Said, well, it's a legitimate question, but what you need to do is at least work on building a following, right?
Right.
So we can take your tracks and we can create teasers from your tracks, right? You can take those teasers and play them in the background while you're talking about your music and your band and whatever it is you're doing, if you're a solo artist, whatever you are, and using that music in the background to give people a bit of a taste of what they're going to hear.
Exactly.
but you want to build some level of an organic following,
Mhm.
and um, organic is a better way to go.
Mhm.
And even going back to what Elizabeth was talking about in terms of pitch correction, you want things to be as organic as they can possibly
Sure.
be,
Absolutely.
right? And we can tell the difference between something that is completely pitch corrected all the way through. I can hear, if someone plays me a song that's I can usually get a sense that it is AI.
If it's totally AI, yeah. Oh, for sure.
There is something about it that becomes a dead giveaway. One of those for me is that it feels lifeless. It feels superhuman.
Mhm.
It doesn't have those human flaws in it
Mhm.
that you hear in a honest to goodness recording.
Right.
And that goes back to this other thing. So, you know, do you not release music before you brand yourself, or do you release music as you're trying to brand yourself? That's sort of the question that came up between myself and this particular artist that I was having a discussion with. And I said, look, um, first of all, you want to make sure that you have the number of tracks ready to go that are going to allow you to keep releasing with some level of consistency.
Mhm.
And you need to decide on what is going to be that release schedule. You don't want that release schedule to be otherly than human. What you're capable of continuing to maintain, right? And so, yeah, you might already have your first 4 or 5 albums recorded. They might all be ready to go. You might only have 2 or 3 albums recorded and ready to go. But what happens after that, right?
Mhm.
How do you maintain, develop a release schedule and maintain a momentum that allows you to continue to release your music with some level of predictability and regularity? Because remember, people are looking for new and different all the time. But with
Right.
120,000 tracks being released a day,
Right.
you still got to think about, how am I going to stand out
Right.
amongst the crowd? Now, if you don't have a following, an engaged following to help boost your music.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. You have to remember too, even with that universe of followers you may have, not all followers will stream.
That's right.
Engagement's what's important,
That's
right? That consistency, that's more valuable than a follower count, say, for example. A small loyal fan base can sometimes do much better than a large passive audience.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So it's so
100%.
important. It's just so important to make sure you're grabbing, that's what you're saying, your organic followers that are going to actually do the call to actions and stream your music the way you wanted it to be, so it pushes up the algorithm.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that you want something that is going to be picked up by some degree or some level, to the algorithm. And the other thing is just releasing your music and not taking the opportunity to take something that is a virgin track and expose that track to playlist curators.
Right.
And
Yeah, pitching it. Yeah.
there are tons of veteran musicians out there that don't even know what playlist curators are.
Right.
I just had that conversation the other day with a veteran musician that's been in the business for 5 decades,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked me that question. Well, what are playlist curators? And I said, essentially, there are people out there that curate playlists. They find tracks that fit various genres. They put playlists together, and they have followings of people that depend on them because they're pretty good at putting playlists together. They've got a discerning ear. They got a sense of what their followers like,
Mm-hmm.
and they put playlists together for their followers to pick up and listen to music to. And
Right.
for a lot of followers that follow playlisters, they're happy with what they get in a product because they're getting music that's stuff that they would normally listen to.
Right. And those curated lists, when those folks, when they know how to curate them, they can drop them in front of an audience that's going to listen as well. They know where to put them.
Yeah, and those people also have friends that are gonna, they're gonna maybe add those songs to their personal playlists.
You're right.
And then share those playlists with their friends. The other thing that I find, that always just strikes me as, I don't know, odd or different, is that, I say to musicians, do you have your own Spotify listening account? No, why would I do that? And I said, so you can create playlists with your music and the other bands or artists that you support, people that maybe you tour with, people that you'd like to tour with, whatever, and you add their songs, create your playlist, and then share them on your socials, right?
Yep.
Because, about 80 to 90% of music interacted on download and streaming platforms, iTunes and Apple or Apple Music and Spotify are the biggest ones. They're shared out amongst playlists.
Yeah.
There's less interaction with individual artist profiles. However, you can get an interaction of those people that organically follow you by getting them to follow you on Spotify.
Right.
They click the follow button on Spotify and they follow you on Spotify, and they get notified every time you have a new release coming out.
That's right.
And then they can save that, they can pre-save that release so that when it goes live, they can listen to it when it goes live, and they can decide, do I want to add this to my library? Do I want to share this out with my friends? Do I want to add it to other playlists? There's a whole host of things that they can do.
That's right.
And so there's some really, really great tools, but just throwing it out there, hoping that it's going to grasp. And I get it. I mean, you're excited. You've got this creation that you put together. This,
oh, absolutely.
What you think is an awesome piece of music. But like I said, when I did the reel for the show this week, there's 75,000 other people out there that think the same thing.
That's right.
Right. My track is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's the greatest thing. You should go and listen to it. But the thing is that we also have a thing called short attention span.
Yep.
Right. You got what, 20 seconds? And when you look at click-throughs, when you look at click-throughs on YouTube and Facebook and on even click-throughs on music streaming platforms,
Okay.
people will listen for about 20 seconds. And if they are not intrigued by what they're hearing, they're on to the next.
That's right.
So you literally, nowadays, if you're writing to look for finding a new audience, what you need to do is get your core group of followers that really like what you're doing and get them to help organically boost your track so they get in front of other people, so they have time to listen to what you've got. Because otherwise, if you're just writing for that 20-second hook to pull people in, then you might be missing out on the joy of writing music that you really like to write.
That's right.
Right? I mean,
very correct.
If you're really just looking to be popular, then you better write it so your song's got that hook within the first 20 seconds of the track. Otherwise, they're clicking on to the next track. And that is problematic for you if you want to get known.
Yeah.
The other thing is that if you are not participating as a participating member, having a Spotify membership, which is, by the way, probably one of the cheapest things you can do in terms of looking at what's out there, right? But also working to help create your own follower group on Spotify, and by creating playlists, joining communities of like-minded people, and sharing playlists out so that there's an organic flow to, getting your music heard. But, I always feel really bad. And here's the other thing. Don't give people your best track first.
That's right. You blow your load right away off the hop.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you set the bar up here, then every song that you release after that has got to be there or higher. Um, you know, if you set the bar in such a way that people see that you're developing as an artist, people a lot of times like to follow people when they see them developing as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, once they become sort of hardcore followers and fans, they you know, are really intrigued and want to know, or you know, are really excited about what's coming next.
Right. You're anticipating, right?
Right. I mean, you got to build that level of anticipation. But if you just put something out there in the hopes that people are going to hear it, and you have no digital media presence, you have no internet presence, you have no real branding, right? And then if you're fighting branding because there are other entities that are using the same
Whatever
name,
song name, yeah, or band name, whatever.
yeah, and if they've got thousands, if not hundreds of thousand followers, and you don't, that can either help you or it can go against you.
Right.
Because then you're constantly fighting to be known as the artist known as,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you know, I've seen this with various artists through the years who had a name they thought was exclusive to them, and it wasn't exclusive to them. And then you start doing the research, and the artist with the same name already has a massive following. So now you've got it. You've got another problem, and that other problem is, how do I stand apart from that other artist that has the same name?
Exactly.
And if it's a different genre, then I have to make sure that that information is captured somehow, probably in the metadata of the music that I'm releasing. If that music's not in, if that's not in the metadata, and that becomes troublesome as well, because let's say you wrongly brand your song, and in the metadata you put it in as rock, but it's really folk.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a rock audience listening to a folk song.
Yep. And they're going to say, why is this here?
Yeah, why is this here? This makes no sense, and I'm not even interested in listening to it. And when that happens, those click-throughs can go against you to drive your music down in the algorithms.
Yep.
So everything from, you know, properly meta tagging your music so that there's good metadata in there that accurately reflects what it is you're releasing, so that it ends up in the right algorithmic playlist.
Mm-hmm.
And then the algorithmic playlists too, they're a whole different animal unto themselves. You've got playlist curators, you've got public listers, you've got editorial playlists, mm-hmm. and then you've got ones that are generated by the algorithms within the streaming service themselves.
Right.
So there's a whole lot of different things that you need to be thinking about as you're releasing and publishing music. And yeah, you might think you know everything about doing it, but you're missing the mark if you're just going to put it out there and you're not going to do anything as a precursor to releasing your music, or something that you're doing alongside of releasing your music.
Right.
And
releasing your song is just the beginning. Right. We've said that many, many times. You know, release day seems like the biggest day, and I get that. But then that's just day one. After that, the real work starts to begin. That's after you've done all your promotion to get to release day.
Well, I mean, go back to the days of, let's go back to the days of analog. Yeah. When albums came out, or even when singles came out, mm-hmm. those came out long after those bands or artists had played those songs live, show after show after show after show after show.
That's right.
Right. So they were already putting the calling card out there for the song by playing that song live, and people heard the song live at the show, and they wanted to hear the song over and over again. So yeah, now I want to go out and buy the recording
record
that comes out. Right.
Yep.
So, you know, if you're not if you're just strictly a recording artist, then what you need to do is build teasers.
Mm.
To me, that's the way to get yourself an audience. So teasers by, starting up a reel saying, "Hey, I'm Kenny, you're not."
Yeah.
And you're putting your music in the background we were talking about, and you're talking about your process of creating music and the audience that you're looking for, right?
Right.
And you put that out on Instagram and on Facebook and on Snapchat and on TikTok, right? And you put a reel out, maybe one reel, depending on how much time you have on your hands, a reel a week at least.
At least one reel,
right?
One reel a week. Yeah.
And if you don't have the ability to do it, I do it for artists all the time. I say, give me 4 timestamps within your track where you think your song hits the hardest, and I will send you 4 20-second clips with a fade in and a fade out. So it sounds professionally faded in and faded out for the purposes of you being able to use that to promote your music.
That's right.
Right? Before you actually release it. Right? So you could do 4 different versions of that one song, 20-second clips, do up 4 or 5 different reels that you use, and you pump those out there, right?
Yep.
And you work to develop an organic following.
Yeah.
Right? My goal for most artists is that, before you release that first song, you want to have at least 300 followers and a good 10% of those fully engaged. So if you had 30 people that were willing to support your track when it first comes out, and the deal that you have with them, because this is all organic, and they're all subscribers to Spotify,
right?
I'm going to ask you, what would you guys stream my song 10 times a day for the first couple of weeks that it comes out?
Yep.
Right? Would you put it on 24? Would you consider putting it on 24-hour repeat?
That's right. Engagement. Yeah. That's what it is.
And what that does, it does a whole lot of different. First of all, it's organic because it's being driven by people that actually have Spotify memberships.
Right.
And what they're really saying by becoming, and Spotify identifies those people as super listeners.
Right.
Those super listeners find you other listeners strictly through the algorithms in the streaming services. So, nobody knows how the algorithms work. But I do see changes at the first 1,000 streams. If the first 1,000 streams on a track comes within the first week of release, typically you start seeing growth. And you start seeing 2 other things besides engagement, because engagement to me is sort of that last piece when people go, yep, this is for me. Those first 2 pieces are reach and discovery.
That's right.
Right? So, if you want more people to discover, you got to have a core group of listeners to start with.
Right. Well, the algorithm, it rewards consistency, right? It doesn't punish you. It just rewards it. The more engagement you have, the more repeat listeners you have, that regular content, that's how you start moving, and that visibility starts climbing and climbing.
Yeah, and if you look at a new track when it first comes out and you're looking at, the analytics can tell you a lot of things. Numbers don't mean anything on their own. But there are certain numbers to pay attention to. One of those numbers is the number of streams per listener. If the average stream per listener is 1.1, that's not good engagement. If the average stream per listener is 5, 6, or 7 per listener, that means they've come back to listen to it. That means they like it, right? That could mean that they're starting to share it with other people. And if you start seeing that trend, what you really want to see is those numbers, the number of streams per listener go up. If the number of streams per listener is low, it means they've listened to it once but not come back to it. Right. And then in your analytics, you can look at who are the unique listeners, and on unique listeners, it will give you the number of streams per unique listener.
So, side question there, as an artist or the artists out there that may not know, how do they see those analytics? Do they have to have, for example, Spotify for artists so they can go in there and start seeing these
Yeah,
things?
so Spotify for Artists is one place where you'll see some of those analytics.
Okay,
You'll see the number of streams per listener. It's an easy piece in the dashboard to take a look at.
sure.
I'm I, CD Baby's okay. I've looked at the dashboards for other services. I really like. Now I have a unique dashboard because I have a label version of DistroKid,
Right,
which is very similar to what they used to call a white label publishing company.
right,
So it gives me a few more bells and whistles. It gives me more tools than an average artist does because it's built around what a label has time to do versus what an artist has to do. So when you look
right,
at it, what an artist has to do, if they're trying to do everything, they're chief cook and bottle washer, right? So they're writing the music, they're recording the music, they're touring the music, and now they're publishing the music and putting it out there on downloaded streaming platforms and then
right,
trying to massage that as well. As a record label, our main job is to get it out in front of as many people as we can.
right.
It's really up to the listener to decide whether it's worthy of their time.
Sure.
And so, we just have to make sure it gets to all the places it needs to go. But the artists, it's their product.
Hmm.
If you don't believe enough in your product, why would you expect anybody else to?
That's right.
Right? You've got to invest in your product, and you've got to look at what activities you can do to sell your product. That's why I said things like reels before you even start releasing music, using teasers and not the same frickin' track over and over again.
Right.
If you've
Pieces of
already
it.
recorded an album, you can do 4 segments off every track. So if you got a 10-track album, you got 40 clips that you could mix and match with various videos that you do,
Hmm.
right? You can do up a whole pile of these videos on your phone and then use something as simple as Clipchamp to go and sync that video up with your track. I mean, you're talking about, writing the album or whatever it is you're doing.
Right.
And you're really trying to attract an audience of people now to listen to your product, right?
Hmm.
And you want to develop that core group of followers that are engaged enough that they're going to come to your shows when you play live shows. They're going to buy your product when it comes out in CD format or vinyl format.
Hmm.
They're going to buy your t-shirts or your hats or your toques or whatever merch you're going to sell.
Right.
And you're really looking for those people that are going to invest in you, right?
Hmm.
And you're looking for those people to help you to sell your product, right? Super listeners and engaged followers help artists to sell their product all the time,
Absolutely.
right? And some of them become the best advocates for the artist, right?
Hmm.
And if you don't believe me, we'll have him on the show and we'll talk about Mike Brandvold and how he ended up becoming the digital marketing agent for KISS.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
talk to him. He'll tell us a lot.
here's a guy that was a super fan, but not one of those, crazy far out there fans that went all googly eyed when he had to interact with the band. He stayed very pragmatic. Gene and Paul saw that in him and said, here's a guy that can market us.
Yep.
He understands the product as well as we do.
Hmm.
And he loves what we do. What better person to sell it to other people than somebody who really loves our product?
Right.
And so that's how he became the digital, marketing guru for KISS and Alan Jackson and Ozzy Osbourne and Britney Spears and so many others,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's because, he thought like a follower, like a fan, people that wanted to know more about the band and wanted to engage on a more intimate level with the band or the artist. So he would come up with ideas that help the artist get that level of engagement from their fan base.
Yeah, it's so important.
It is. It is. And you don't have to have a digital marketing expert like Michael to get engagement. You just have to be willing to do the work before you put your music out there. Don't be tempted to just go out and publish your music before you've laid out the groundwork for some level of success. Right?
Right.
And then, like Mike said, don't shoot your wad.
Yeah.
Put out something that's going to attract people, but maybe it's not your best work.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Maybe it's a B-side song that you start with. Everybody's got to start somewhere. If you build momentum,
Mm-hmm.
When you play a live show, do you play all the best songs first, Mike?
No, absolutely not. We mix and match.
Right. And so you're constantly working the audience in terms of what they're going to respond to, right? And that set list that you guys do for Dave Fogarty and the Commotion, I'm sure that set list has not always been static.
No.
Right?
No, depends on the audience.
Yeah, and also at the same point in time, it's not always the best works first. You might be saving those for the encore. You might be saving because you want people to stay to the end of the show.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
I just went and saw an Eagles tribute band over the weekend, Epic, who was over, and they saved the best song for last. Right. Hotel California was in the encore.
Right.
Right. And, everybody was anticipating it. Everybody's looking around going, when are they going to do Hotel California? When are they going to do Hotel California? And then they ended the show. Good night, folks, blah, blah, blah. Then they came back out. You saw the double neck white guitar come out and everyone's like, yeah, because again, it's and they did a really good job doing it too.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that is the key. You want to build anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you want to build some level of momentum. It has to all start somewhere. So I think it's really important that you start small and you work towards, what your goal is in the long term. But I like I said, if you just think you're going to put your music out there and everybody else thinks the same thing, remember, it gets published today. And if it doesn't do anything today, tomorrow, 120,000 more tracks are on top of it.
Absolutely.
And it's very, unless you're doing some activities going on to build momentum around that track to help pull it up through the algorithms. Mm-hmm. You've got the weight of those 120,000 tracks on top of it and 120,000 the next day, right? Yep. So you think about that. 600,000 tracks by the end of the week on top of what you already published.
That's right.
That's a whole minutia field to go through to try and find that track that you released.
And, as an artist, even for myself, I'll speak for myself. When you're going to release a song, like, you're putting it out there, or even if you're planning for it, your mind's racing. Things are going quick because you're trying to get things moving and pumping, right, to get it out there.
Yeah.
Your audience is not seeing things happening that fast. For them, it's like they're surprised, right? If you're pushing something once a week, to them, that's a whole week since they saw your last promo. And if they're bored, they may forget about it. They may not. They may be anticipating. And then the week come by the next week and they're like, oh, there's another one. That's starting to get exciting,
Bill,
So
you want to build some level of anticipation. Right. And so that first couple of times you put your reels out, it may not be the same track each time.
Right.
Because what you're trying to do is create this, you're looking at creating a broad audience of people that are going to listen to your music. And so, you might put something out that's more mellow. You might put something out that's hit you in the face. You might put something that's kind of the middle of the road, depending on what you've already got. Remember, you've already recorded that 10-track album, and you should have the tracks all ready to go before you even start releasing. Because unless it's a concept album, and you're going to go track by track by track, then that's great. but you better make sure that you're going to have all the tracks really done in time
Right.
so that they can be properly published and put out in a consistent release
Strategy.
strategy and pattern, right?
Mhm.
So if it's an every 2 week release on those songs, I mean, if you go every 2 weeks on a 10-track album, you're 20 weeks to
Yeah.
release the album. That's
Yeah.
half a year almost,
Yeah.
right? So you got to remember, pick the time of year to start releasing it that you're not running into Christmas time, because
Right.
once December rolls around, all bets are off,
Mhm.
right? You want that album, if you're going to waterfall release it. I always tell people to waterfall release it. If people don't know who you are, you've got to continue to brand yourself through the releasing of that album. So you got to start off with branding, get people to know who you are, get people to anticipate you got music coming out, then put out that first track, then continue to brand on that first track till the next one comes out, right? And let people know you got new music coming out every couple of weeks, because you're trying to build momentum, trying to build a fan base, and appeal to even the non-listener by saying, hey, look, this might not be for you, but maybe you got a friend who might like it.
That's right.
Right? That's one way to think about it. Okay, shifting gears. Got something major going on here.
Yes, you do.
I hit the road tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, I will be on the road. I'll be heading to North Dakota, of all places, and it's a. I got to try and think of where it is now. It is. It's in North Dakota. It's a tri-county fair. The band The Sweet is playing there.
Mhm.
And while we're talking about that, my son-in-law to be, Ari Kamen, he just did a beautiful rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. If you haven't heard it, haven't seen it, I'll share it on the YouTube link for it, so you can give it a listen.
That'd be great.
Everybody that's heard it so far said, "Oh my God, what a voice!" Okay, no auto tune on this voice, everybody. No auto tune and no
he's got a good voice.
falsetto. This is his natural voice. He took the arrangement for Whitney Houston's version of Star Spangled Banner, which he thought was the best he'd ever heard, and he emulated it as a male singer.
Wow.
So
Impressive.
pretty wild. You got to listen to it. It's impressive. Wish Tech.
Okay.
Is where I'm off to, and we're going to North Dakota for the show there. It's at the Tri-County Fair. I'm going to just go down here to my maps, because I've got the whole trip mapped out already.
Cool.
And we're going to be going literally across the U.S.
Okay.
So we start off. We're going to be in Wishek, is spelled Wishek, North Dakota, and then we're heading from there on down to Sturgis, then down the Needles Highway to down through Hot Springs, South Dakota. Red Rocks Amphitheater will be one of our stops.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah, and then we'll be heading across Moab, and we're staying in a cabin in the desert in Moab.
Oh, right on.
And then we're going to go from there to meet up with a friend of ours that's going to be doing. He's got some shows coming up in Vegas. We're going to be meeting up with him at the Gold Nugget. We're going to be hanging out at the Gold Nugget in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on a plane.
And then we're going to be down at LA, and then Son of a Gun, Ari's other band, has a gig in Southern California.
That's a good band. I've seen them
on
YouTube. They're great.
Yeah, they are the closest you're ever going to hear to a Guns N' Roses.
They are good.
An actual Guns N' Roses show, and a guy with a better voice than Axl.
Yeah, it's good. The show is good.
So you got to go see that. Son of a Gun's going to also have some new music coming out at some point. There's 5 tracks that have been recorded, but they're still undecided about the release and release times on that, but we'll figure that out as time goes on. So I'm going to be on the road next week. So broadcasting a week from now. Today being the 8th, the 15th, I will be back in Los Angeles.
Right on.
So
Do the show from there?
I'll probably do the show from LA. And then the 16th, he has a gig in LA on the 16th. And then the next 4 days, we're just going to hang out together. And I celebrate my birthday while we're out there. So we're going to the Whiskey.
Oh, right on.
The Whiskey a Go Go to celebrate my birthday. And apparently there's a Motley Crue fest going on down in LA while we're down there. So we're probably going to see a bunch of Motley Crue tribute bands.
Very cool.
So it's going to be
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It's going to be a wicked time. No doubt about that. So
I'll be following you. Don't worry.
Lot of fun. So some really cool stuff happening. I'm going to talk to you offline because I got a couple of things to share with you offline that are going to blow your mind, Mike. And I know you got things.
Can't wait.
With me. So this has been the Indie Show. Thank you for joining us this week. Thank you so much for your contributions, everybody. We appreciate you all so much. Thank you for joining us. Without you, we wouldn't have sort of the inspiration to continue doing this. We really appreciate those of you that come. Thank you for your comments. I know we can't get to them all the time on here because of the content we have planned for the show. But we listen to all the comments that people give us in the chat room. They're there for us to look at and think about how we would include that in content for upcoming shows. So please, and thank you for joining us in the chat room as well, everybody.
Thank you very much.
That guy there, that's Mike Muscat. I'm Kenny. You're not. Have a great end to your week, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Take care.